My husband, without my knowledge, took our daughter to get tested for a match for his sister's child. There was an accident during the kidney transplantation surgery. My daughter died on the cold operating table, holding a knife. I wanted to kill him to take revenge, but he ran over me with his car. I didn't die immediately. For a day and a night, I endured the agony of broken bones and shredded flesh. I was not reconciled. It wasn't me who should die, and even less so my daughter. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when my sister-in-law's son was just diagnosed. One Jason called me. Looking at the caller ID, my fingers trembled, and I could barely press the answer button. Yvonne, go to the hospital quickly. Mom called me and said that brother's illness is very serious. His selfish father actually won't treat the child anymore. That's my own nephew. At this time, I have to help. I'm on a business trip outside. You go to the bank and withdraw some money quickly and pay the hospitalization fee first. This scene was exactly the same as the nightmare I just had. Could it be that it wasn't a dream but something I really experienced? Tucson all over my body rose. Could Jason be so cruel? Since we got married. Not to mention how romantic it was. But compared to most men, he was still very family-oriented. He would do housework and make baby food. He was also very good to our daughter. There was no preference for sons over daughters. He had mentioned the idea of having a second child, because I wanted to cultivate our daughter well. I refused. He didn't insist very much either. Our little family had always been happy. I was more inclined to think it was just a nightmare. Maybe I was too tired recently. Still, I took the money and went to the hospital. Whether it was real or not, I had to see what happened next. When I arrived at the hospital, only my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were there. Sister-in-law, thank you so much. My life is so miserable. I'm just a housewife. The child's father doesn't care anymore. What should I do about the child's illness? You and my brother must help me. You are my relatives. I am also a mother. Seeing this, I was still a little moved. I helped up my sister-in-law who was sitting on the ground, slapping the ground and crying heartbreak. I still had some doubts in my heart about the nightmare I had. I quietly asked the doctor about the child's condition. The doctor replied that the specific examination report hadn't come out yet. The preliminary examination suspected a problem with the kidneys. It was like a bolt from the blue. This was exactly in line with my dream. I almost believed that it wasn't a dream but everything I had actually experienced in my previous life. My hands and feet were ice cold. Blood rushed to my head and pulsed violently. The physical pain and overwhelming hatred from my unwilling death in my previous life swept over me. What should I do? My body swayed and I was about to lose my balance. The doctor worriedly asked if I was unwell and woke me up from the nightmare. I waved my hand and returned to the car. I tried hard to calm down my almost collapsing spirit. The tragedy of my previous life must never happen again. I forced myself to calm down and sort out my experiences from my previous life. Just like now, I suddenly received a call from Jason. I hurriedly took the money and paid the hospitalization fee for the child. I asked my mother-in-law what exactly was wrong with the child. My mother-in-law was evasive and just said there was a problem with the kidneys. It was curable. But the child's father was heartless and wouldn't spend a penny. She said a lot of bad things about the child's father. Finally, she led the conversation to me as the sister-in-law, and asked me to help more. We were all family. After the child got better, he would repay us. I just felt sorry for the child. At such a young age, he had a serious illness and his father didn't care. It was very pitiful. Immediately, I said I would help. When Jason returned from his business trip, he asked me to go back and take care of our daughter first. When I left, I saw the three of them talking about something. Jason patted his chest and said something. The examination results came out. Brother had kidney cancer. The situation was not good. There were no cured cases in China. The successive examinations and treatments lasted for half a month. I had already paid more than $500. 0 yuan. Jason and I were not big bosses either. We just took advantage of the dividends of the times. We bought a house early and it appreciated. We could have more than 5 million yuan. There was only a little more than 1 million yuan left in our savings. Brother's illness was like a money-burning abyss. I was a little hesitant and asked Jason if we should still look for the child's father. After all, this was his own child, and it was his responsibility. As a result, I was directly driven away. The child's father said that children could be born again. I was so angry. I told my sister-in-law that a person like this was heartless. It was better to divorce him. She could also divide a part of the property and sell it to pay for the child's treatment. My sister-in-law was evasive. I understood. She was unwilling to divorce. Jason directly slapped me in front of my sister-in-law, and mother-in-law questioned me if I didn't want to pay for the child's treatment anymore. He scolded me and said that he was in charge of the family's money and I had no right to interfere. This was the first time Jason hit me. I cried and ran home. Jason came home and apologized to me. He said he was impulsive. He was also angered by his brother-in-law's attitude. In a fit of rage, he lost his reason and hit me. It was his fault. I also saw for the first time that a biological father could be so ruthless to his own child. I was equally furious and easily forgave Jason. He said that in his sister's situation, she had no way out except relying on him, as the elder brother and me as the sister-in-law. Yvonne, can you bear to watch the child die like this? I couldn't bear it. Brother was less than a year older than my yo-yo. The two children grew up together. Looking at brother lying on the hospital bed with various tubes inserted and his pale little face, I couldn't help but think, what if it was my own child lying here? Wouldn't I even have the heart to die? Thinking of this, I was even more distressed and felt more sorry for him. The child needs to be saved. We must help as much as we can. However, all the money you earned over the years was lost in stock trading. The child's medical expenses cost more than 500 yuan in just half a month. The expenses later will be even greater. We only have a little more than 1 million yuan left in savings. We still have yo-yo to raise. Why don't we ask our parents to contribute some? No. How can we ask for money? If word gets out, I will still have to ask my parents for medical expenses. I will be laughed at. I knew that Jason always cared about face. As the eldest son in the family, he always had to act as the pillar of the family and put on a brave front. I had to go to my parents-in-law on my own to see if they could help. For the old house at home was demolished. There was a considerable amount of demolition compensation and several houses were allocated. The value increased a lot. Originally, my parents-in-law had said that this was all for their son and daughter. They were not partial. Each person would get a house. I meant that it was going to be divided anyway. Why not give it to my sister-in-law now and sell it for money to pay for medical expenses? But as soon as I mentioned this, my mother-in-law's face darkened. Your father and I are still alive and well. Are you already thinking about our property? Do you wish us old couple to die early? Mom, treating the child is important. This house was originally going to be given to my sister. Giving it earlier or later is the same. Giving it now can also save the child's life. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm thinking about my sister. Brother is also a piece of flesh from her body. He is also your own grandson. Don't you love this grandson the most? Seeing me persistently persuade, my mother-in-law sighed. Yvonne, it's not that we don't give. To tell you the truth, the child can't be saved. In the end, it will be a waste of money and effort. We are old and can turn money anymore. We can't just throw away our money. We won't pay this money. I returned home dejectedly from my in-law's house. Jason angrily came to settle scores with me. You still want to ask your parents for money? Didn't I say that you can't ask your parents for money? Are you taking my words as nothing? Usually pretending to be generous and not staring at money. When something happens, you start asking this person and that person for money. Now you are even staring at the old people's money. How can you be so shameless now? When he said that, I also felt ashamed. Life was too difficult. My meager salary really couldn't withstand any big storms. Jason, Mom and Dad said that the doctor has made a diagnosis and said it can't be cured. In the end, it will be a waste of money and effort. Do you know? I know. It's just a quack doctor. It's because their skills are poor. Mom and Dad have a low educational level. They believe whatever they hear. You at least have a college degree. Don't you have any judgment of your own? Jason was imposing. The child is just lacking good medical conditions now. I couldn't persuade Jason. I let him take all the family's savings and let my sister-in-law take the child to a hospital abroad. 5. The doctor suggested palliative care. Immediately, the child was transferred back to a domestic hospital. My mother-in-law asked Yo-Yo to go to the hospital more often to accompany and care for her hospitalized cousin. She said that the two children had grown up together since childhood and had a deep relationship. Spend more time with him in his final days. Hearing the news that there was no cure, I was also very sad and wanted to send my daughter to visit her cousin. Yo-Yo said she didn't want to go. I was shocked. My daughter, who had always been sensible, obedient, and kind, suddenly didn't even want to visit her seriously ill cousin? I don't want to go. Dad loves him more than me. I lovingly rubbed Yo-Yo's head. Baby, Dad loves you. It's just that your brother is sick and very serious. So he puts more energy on your brother. You don't want to regret not visiting him if he really dies. Do you? I gently persuaded Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo agreed to go and accompany her cousin more. Unexpectedly, my moment of kindness caused Yo-Yo to lose her life. I don't know when Yo-Yo was taken for a match test, and it was a match. Without my knowledge, she was taken into the operating room and died on the operating table. My Yo-Yo, who had sweetly said good morning to me in the morning. 6. I sorted out my emotions in the car before going home to see Yo-Yo. She was playing with the GoPro I had just rewarded her. Yo-Yo was studious and smart. We had already agreed that if she achieved her goals in the final exam, she would be rewarded. Regarding this, Jason thought I was spoiling the child too much. At a young age, she had more things than some college students. I didn't think so. Why couldn't I give what I could afford to give to my child? One shouldn't endure hardships without reason. In my previous life, I only thought that Jason and I had different educational concepts. Now I understand. He just thought that my daughter didn't deserve these things. He had said many times that with the money I used to cultivate my daughter's hobbies and take classes, I could completely raise a second child. The greatest wealth for a child is sibling love. I thought he had a different perspective. It couldn't be said that he was completely wrong. In fact, in his opinion, spending thousands of yuan on interest classes was a waste. Occasionally spending a few hundred yuan on feasting was even a sin. Raising a child should just provide food and drink. As long as the child is not hungry or cold and goes to school regularly. At night, I slept in bed with Yo-Yo and read her a bedtime story. Looking at her sleeping face, I had countless thoughts. Yo-Yo had always been independent. Before she was 10 years old, she had read many books and often said things that even adults found enlightening. I couldn't let Jason harm Yo-Yo anymore. Perhaps I couldn't explain to her why Mom and Dad must separate. But divorce is definitely not the reason for destroying a child. A bad family relationship is. I wasn't sure if everything would be exactly the same as in my previous life. Only by getting a divorce as soon as possible could I save Yo-Yo and me. 7. Early in the morning, I simply packed my things and directly took Yo-Yo to the company. I was a veteran employee in the company and had some shares. I directly applied to my leader for working from home. I took my child and went to another city. When Jason came back and saw that there was no one at home, he called me. Yvonne, where did you and Yo-Yo go? Did you go out to eat and drink again? Brother is about to die now. Don't be so unseemly. There is someone in the family about to pass away. Yet you are still indulging in entertainment. You are too selfish and vicious. I remembered in my previous life that not only did he spend all his family's property, But he also unhesitatingly let his daughter, who was less than 10 years old, donate a kidney to his nephew who had been sentenced to death by the doctor. After my daughter died, just because I showed a knife, he knocked me down with his car and ran over me repeatedly. In this new life, I truly saw through his indifference towards our mother and daughter. We are not his family, but human blood bags that can be sacrificed to his family any time. Late at night, when Yo-Yo and I were not at home, instead of showing concern first, he immediately launched a barrage of accusations. In my previous life, just because brother was sick, we couldn't laugh at home. We couldn't even eat better food, let alone go out to eat and play. As long as we showed a little bit of a good mood and were seen by Jason, we would be labeled as selfish, cold-hearted, and callous, until our mother and daughter both died. During this period, if I was a little careless, Jason would become irritable and take the opportunity to explode. We only thought that he was under too much internal and external pressure, and carefully, now thinking about it, a 10-year-old child like Yo-Yo had to live in such a highly tense environment and constantly guess her father's temper and emotions every day. This was extremely cruel to her. Let's get a divorce. I have found a lawyer. You can also find a lawyer and talk to my lawyer. I have taken Yo-Yo away. You don't need to look for her. We will meet again when we go through the divorce procedures. I hung up the phone directly. When I left in a hurry, I didn't bring enough clothes for Yo-Yo. I asked my mom to go to the house and find some and bring them over. My mom told me that Yo-Yo's room was very messy. It seemed that someone was searching for something. Yo-Yo's certificates had always been kept in the drawer in her room. It was Jason who searched. Fortunately, I took all the certificates with me. My mother-in-law called. Yvonne, don't be so temperamental at such a time. Hurry up and bring Yo-Yo back. It's not safe for a woman to take a child and be outside. What a joke. Staying where Jason can reach is the greatest danger. I didn't expect that when I told Jason so firmly that I wanted a divorce, and the lawyer had also contacted him. In my mother-in-law's view, I was just being temperamental. Mom, let me call you Mom for the last time. I really want to divorce Jason. It's not a joke. I'm serious. Is it because Jason wants to pay for brother's medical expenses? That's the child of his own sister. He can't just stand by and do nothing even if the child dies. As long as we get divorced, it has nothing to do with me whether he pays or not. At such a time, he should agree to divorce early and divide the property so that it can be used for treatment. You can also persuade him. Yvonne, don't be impulsive. This is not a matter of principle for Jason. He does housework, can earn money, and hasn't cheated. There is really no need for you to get divorced. You don't know that a woman is birthless after divorce. Then you won't be able to find a man to marry. Moreover, you still have a child. Nowadays, is a man who does housework and doesn't cheat considered a good man? Whether I am valuable after divorce has nothing to do with you. As for Jason, who with no good sense would look at him, a child's biological father, grandfather, grandmother, maternal grandfather, and maternal grandmother all don't care. The biological mother only knows to play the victim in front of her brother. Only he doesn't care about his wife and daughter and is willing to spend all his family's money on a bottomless pit and has been sentenced to death by the doctor. Moreover, all the money he earned was lost in the stock market. He uses my savings to be generous and still says I am selfish. Yes. How can I not be selfish? Brother is the biological son of my sister-in-law. Yo-Yo is also my biological daughter. I have to plan for her. No one can touch the money I set aside for my daughter. I angrily turned off my phone. I didn't know when Yo-Yo woke up and how much of my conversation with my mother-in-law she had heard. Mom, I support you in getting a divorce. Do whatever you want. The little person hugged me tightly, melting away the sharp thorns that I used to defend against malicious. Yo-Yo was my last shield in constantly dealing with the divorce matters with all my energy. 9. I agreed to divorce. But we must meet and talk. Bring Yo-Yo. For the matter of divorce, my spirit was tortured every day. I was worried that the longer it dragged on, the greater the harm to Yo-Yo. Although she seemed normal on the surface, she was a precocious child who understood more things than ordinary children and endured more. Although I was very worried that Jason would do something with the child, in order to cut off quickly, I booked a restaurant in the mall. There was a large flow of people. Any disturbance would be a big deal. Divide the property equally. The house is for me. I can give you half of the house's value in cash. Yvonne, do you really have to get this divorce? I am the child's uncle. It's natural for me to pay. How did you become so selfish and vicious now? Or did I not see you clearly from the beginning? Yo-Yo. Don't learn from your mom and become a selfish and cold person. Relatives should support each other. Jason. Don't pretend to be a good person. If you were a qualified father, you wouldn't have secretly taken Yo-Yo to get tested for a kidney match without my knowledge. Jason was shocked and guilty. Yo-Yo's big eyes were filled with tears. Dad, do you want me to give a kidney to my brother? Yo-Yo. Only if you are a match. People have 2 kidneys. You only need to give one to your brother. You will be fine. Think about it. You just lose 1 kidney but can save your brother's life. Yo-Yo burst into tears sadly. Jason's face was livid. Look at the good daughter you taught. She is just like you. Selfish and unreasonable. I don't want such a daughter anymore. I didn't expect Jason to say such cold words in front of the child. I comforted Yo-Yo who was crying. I have also seen it. There is a father like you in the world who sides with outsiders. You don't even want your own daughter. This divorce is still too late. After I sign the divorce agreement, I will have my lawyer give it to you. Take the money and save your real relatives. 10 In order to complete Yo-Yo's transfer procedures, I still stayed in City S temporarily. Surprisingly, Jason's brother-in-law actually asked to meet me. This person whom I only met once after brother got sick and then left on bad terms suddenly asked to meet me. This didn't happen in my previous life either. I still met him. Sister-in-law. I know you don't like me. I refused to sell the house to treat the child. But I only earn such a meager salary. You also know that the child's illness can't be cured. This is your family matter. I am already getting a divorce from Jason. If you ask to meet me just for this matter, then it has nothing to do with me. I'll leave first. Don't leave in a hurry. I just heard that you are getting a divorce. I also have no one to reason with. At first, I met Gia's mother through a blind date. My family's conditions are not as good as hers. I just thought I wronged her. So I always spoiled and pampered her. But they hid one thing. She almost died of septicemia when she was a child. She still has serious liver disease until now. If I had known this earlier, I would definitely not have married her. People are selfish. I can't afford heavy medical expenses. I found some signs after we got married. But I am miserable. If I divorce just because my wife is sick, I will be criticized. As a result, Gia was born. When he was young, it was okay. But now with such a serious illness, it can't be cured and he suffers. When I said to give up treatment, I was still called heartless. According to what you said, I understand why Jason must save Gia. My sister-in-law's body is probably unable to have a second child. So she will do everything to keep this child. It's ridiculous and pitiful. At first, one of the reasons I married Jason was to be good to his sister. The in-laws all praised me for being good to my sister-in-law, and being a good sister-in-law. I only heard that she had a serious illness when she was a child and was cured. The family doted on her more. I also followed and was especially good to her. I was also good to Gia. Every time I bought something for Yo-Yo, I would buy 2 copies and give one to Gia. In the end, the divorce is because he is too good to his sister. 71. I really have no choice. I am also the child's father. Can I not feel pain? To put it bluntly, if I divorce, I can find someone else and have another child. These words are really unpleasant. Over and over again. He is just trying to clear himself. My mom called. Quickly. Yojo was taken away by your mother-in-law and them. My heart almost jumped out. Jason's intention to get a kidney transplant was not dead. The longer Yo-Yo was in his hands, the more dangerous my Yo-Yo would be. On the way to the hospital, my hands holding the steering wheel were shaking. I was extremely anxious. The scene of me holding Yo-Yo who died on the operating table in my previous life and being in agony kept playing in my mind. Yo-Yo, you can't have an accident. When I arrived at the hospital, Jason had already planned in advance and had transferred the patient. I was like crazy and ran through all the major hospitals in City S. I forced myself to calm down. Brother's condition was serious and he definitely couldn't leave the city. He must still be in a hospital in the city. But I had searched all over the city and still couldn't find him. Jason knew that I would look for him. He must try every means to hide from me. I asked my friends and quickly compiled a list of all the hospitals in City S that could perform transplantation surgeries, whether large or small, and even those private institutions with shady dealings. 12 I hurried to a private hospital. Before the operation started, I snatched Yo-Yo back. Seeing me crazily smashing things, even the most heartless doctor didn't dare to stop me. If I was a step late, Yo-Yo would have been given anesthesia. Only such a small workshop without qualifications and only caring about money would dare to accept such an obviously illegal operation. When Jason saw me coming, he bluffed and told me to get out of the way and not affect the operation. This was a matter of life and death. To hell with him. In my previous life, even in a regular large hospital, there was still an accident. Such a small workshop was clearly starting on the road to hell. I rushed over, scratched his face, grabbed his hair, pulled down his head, and hit his face with either slaps or fists. My hands were so sticky that I didn't know if it was his blood or mine. Jason was stunned by my wild beating. As soon as his mind cleared up, he was about to fight back. But the police arrived. I had called the police before I arrived. He didn't dare to fight back. I took the opportunity to kick him hard in the lower body. He was in so much pain that he collapsed on the ground and moaned continuously. We were taken back to the police station. Because we were husband and wife, we were only briefly criticized and then released. I immediately told the police that Jason and this private hospital were performing illegal operations and trying to murder my daughter. After investigation, it was found to be true. The relevant personnel were directly detained. 13 because of this farce. Jason had a criminal record. I directly sued for divorce in court. According to the evidence I presented, not only did I successfully get divorced and obtain custody of the child, but almost all the property was awarded to me. It seemed like a blessing in disguise. But I didn't want it. Almost. I had to experience the pain of losing my daughter again. I didn't want my daughter to see the terrifying side of human nature the most. But she saw it in a tragic way. Yo-Yo broke down and cried. Dad doesn't love me. Mom. He only loves my cousin. From childhood to now, Dad always asked me to give in to my brother. He said that a good child should know how to be modest. But, Mom, shouldn't modesty be mutual? Why do I have to be modest every time? As long as my cousin takes a fancy to my toy, I have to give it to him. If I don't give it, he will say that if you don't give it to me, I will let my uncle beat you. After being beaten, you still have to give it to me. I'm not bluffed. Dad really will do this. Why do other people's dads love their children so much and protect children? But my dad has become a weapon for others to bully me? Why? Baby. I'm sorry. I thought that every time you were wronged, I would double the compensation later, so you wouldn't be hurt. It's my fault. I didn't protect you well. Mom, it has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. It's my fault. I'm too sensitive and selfish. I'm stingy. Every time something is taken away from me, I will be very, very sad. Even if it is compensated, the sadness still comes first. No matter how good things I receive later, I can't forget that sadness. Looking at the wrinkled face of the little person in front of me, my heart ached unbearably. I could only hold her tightly and keep repeating sorry. 14 on an ordinary day. Yo-Yo suddenly told me that she also hated her aunt because her aunt hated her. In a place where I couldn't see. She pulled Yo-Yo and said sinister lie and distorted lie. Why wasn't it you who got sick? I was extremely terrified. It turned out that my sister-in-law had always been jealous of my child's health. Even Jason was. Seeing his sister seriously ill and then suffering from another disease. And seeing his nephew about to die. While my daughter was healthy, intelligent, able to eat and drink, and still had the energy to take various interest classes, travel and climb mountains. This kind of health and vitality is what they lack in their bodies. They are jealous from the bottom of their hearts. In the hearts of such people, everyone should taste the pain together with them, and can't bear to see others better than them. So they wanted my daughter's kidney. My sister-in-law had a blood disease. Even if my daughter donated her kidney, when my sister-in-law got sick and needed it again, she would still ask my daughter to donate bone marrow. In Jason's view, my daughter and I were blood bags for their family, and could be used at any time. 15 I kindly waived the alimony that Jason should pay to Yo-Yo. I asked Yo-Yo, do you hate your cousin? I hate my cousin very much. But I don't want him to die either. Then we don't want Dad's money. Mom can also ensure that Yo-Yo's living standard doesn't drop. However, Jason refused to pay for brother's medical expenses anymore. The company had fired him. Without an income source. His so-called blood is thicker than water couldn't be maintained even with the best acting at this time. My sister-in-law went to find Jason and make a scene. Jason no longer gave money. In public. My sister-in-law accused him. It was this brother who wanted to save the child, and patted his chest to donate a kidney for the child. As a result, the child suffered all the pain. Now this uncle didn't care anymore. Jason felt ashamed and wanted to leave. My sister-in-law dragged his leg, and started to tear up the relationship. Saying that this family was sorry for her. Why did she have to get sick while this brother was still fine? Why did her child have to be seriously ill while the brother's child was living well? It wasn't her son who should die. My daughter should die. A girl should obediently donate her kidney for her son. As a brother, Jason was reluctant to spend money. He watched his own sister's child die helplessly. He was heartless. People around were talking one after another. Jason broke free and ran away, and never appeared in the hospital again. Brother still passed away. My sister-in-law came to me. How can you be so cruel? It was just a little bit short. My son could have had a kidney transplant. I hate you so much. You also took my brother's money. For money. Are you going to be this murderer? Did you eat your brain with your dinner at night? Can you blame me? At the beginning of the divorce, I first asked to divide the cash deposit. Don't delay Jason from paying for the child's treatment. As for the kidney, do you have a 24-karat-gold son? So precious that we have to rush to give a kidney? My sister-in-law was so angry that she couldn't speak. She still had to add a curse that we wouldn't have a good end. We will always die after you. Live like a human being. 16 Jason lost his job and begged his parents to sell the house and pooled a sum of money to join and open a hot pot restaurant. After the store opened, business was booming and customers were coming in an endless stream. Jason came to me. Yvonne, now that brother is gone too. Are you satisfied? Yo-Yo is still young, and can't live without a dad. I can forgive your selfishness. Women are indecisive and can't see clearly. I can understand that too. Now remarry me. In the future, don't meddle in my family's affairs. Be a good mother to the child. We can still live together. Jason, why didn't I realize before that you are mentally ill and seriously ill? Find an opportunity to go to the hospital and see. Don't delay it. Don't be ungrateful. I'm giving you a step down. With your selfishness and still having a daughter. Who would want you? Only I can look at our past relationship and still give you a chance. Moreover, now I have opened a store. As soon as I open my eyes, there is money coming in. I will be prosperous soon. By then, if you want to curry favor with me again, There will be no chance. Go dream your fortune dream. A good ex should be like dead. In the future. Don't look for me if there's nothing. And you definitely can't find me if there's something. Okay. Okay. You are just stubborn. There will be a day when you cry. 17 I was shopping with a friend and met my sister-in-law. It was very unlucky. I was about to turn around and leave. She rushed over and spoke sarcastically. Isn't this my former black-hearted sister-in-law? Why do you look so bad? Are you being punished? I'm afraid that seeing my brother making a lot of money now. You regret it so much that your intestines are green. I never meet anyone when I'm wearing makeup. But when I'm not wearing makeup, I always meet some old acquaintances. Who is like her? Just after her son died, she came out to eat, drink and shop with heavy makeup. My friend couldn't stand her appearance and was about to go forward and tear her mouth. I pulled my friend. I'm not like you. Your face is painted like a monkey's butt print. People who don't know might think you crashed into a red couplet. Why aren't you scolding your brother for being heartless in the street like before? What kind of skincare products do you use? Your skin is so thick. My sister-in-law was so angry that her face and neck turned red. There is no grudge between our brother and sister. Isn't it you who are sowing discord? Now I am in charge of things in my brother's store. It has to be family members who share joys and sorrows. Unlike outsiders who run away when there is something wrong. Yes. So your husband divorced you too. I don't know if a divorced woman like you can find the next one easily. It's none of your business. Well said. Pass the sentence to your brother and your mom for me. 18 Jason's store closed down suddenly less than half a year after it opened. The franchisee took the money and ran away. At first, business was booming. His relatives all came to invest and wanted to share a piece of the pie. Jason was so flattered that he accepted everyone who came. Now there was a problem, and they all came to ask for their debts. Jason still wanted to borrow money from me. I took my parents and child on an overseas trip early and avoided it. Later, Jason was arrested. It is sad that there was a relative who was originally a hooligan. He gathered a few younger brothers and came to beat on the door to occupy Jason's parents' house until Jason paid back the money. How could Jason endure this kind of anger that implicated his parents? So he started a fight with them. There were many of them, and they quickly beat Jason down, kicked him a few times, and then asked him to cook. As a result, Jason poisoned them and killed several people. When he saw that several people were dead, his anger turned into fear and he drove to escape. Before he could leave the city, he was caught by the police at a highway checkpoint. After the trial, the expected death penalty, I let out a long breath. The shadow of my previous life that hung over my head disappeared when the judgment was pronounced. I went to the prison to see Jason for the last time. 19 I didn't expect that now we have to meet through a layer of glass. Jason, are you doing well? Yvonne, you came to see me just to see my joke, right? After being married for many years, you don't have to be so heartless. Do you? I shook my finger. And no, and oh and oh. It's very necessary. Only when I see that you are not doing well can I be slightly comforted. Jason angrily slapped the table. The prison guard made a sound to stop him. Jason, be honest. Jason subconsciously sat up straight. Then he felt that this appearance had completely lost face in front of me and glared at me resentfully. Just let it be. Be even more bitter. Didn't I live another life just for this moment? Don't be angry first. Keep it. There is something more worthy of anger later. Thinking of this, I couldn't help covering my mouth and laughing. Jason, it was that manager who invited you to join, right? You mentioned him to me. When I was just pregnant with Yo-Yo, you wanted to make a fortune with him. So what if it is? Now that I am in this situation, I admit defeat. After the divorce, I deliberately went to the massage parlor he often went to and met him by chance. I revealed the news of our divorce. At first, when you wanted to invest, I also supported it. Out of caution, I asked you to organize a dinner and we met. After several conversations, I saw that this person was not a serious businessman. I asked you to give up the idea and have less contact with him. But you thought I looked down on your friend and blocked your way to make money. For this reason, we had a big fight. At that time, you started investing in stocks. Your own money was trapped. And I was still in tight control of the finances. Only then did you have no choice but to give up. But you, just after the divorce, directly fell into the trap he set. You really live up to my expectations. Yvonne, you set me up and it's you who made me fall to this point. The prison guard glared at him. Jason could only grind his teeth and look ferocious. How is it that I harmed you? Divorce is not a secret. After opening the store. How arrogant you were. You asked me to remarry quickly and flatter you. Have you forgotten your arrogant appearance? I ignored you. But you still sent messages and told me from time to time how much money you had made. Telling me to go back quickly. Jason, I didn't block you just to remind you that you should be proud in front of your relatives. This kind of wealth should be known to everyone to match your outstanding nature. Especially your distant cousin who you often mention. He only has a junior high school education, but has always looked down on you who have a bachelor's degree. Yes. The one who was poisoned to death by you. Jason couldn't control himself anymore and started smashing the glass in front of him crazily. The prison guard could hardly hold him down. Many more people came and dragged him away. The meeting was forced to end. I walked out of the cramped room and stretched. The sun outside was so nice. I don't know how many more times Jason can see the sun. 20 in the morning. I sent Yo-Yo to school. I watched the little figure carrying a school bag and a water cup, bouncing and running towards the school gate. At the moment before entering, she stopped, turned around and waved at me. I smiled and waved at her too. She was like a clever fish, diving into the group of students. In groups of 3 or 5, there were bursts of laughter. When I was out on business and passing by a shopping mall, I saw a woman from a distance. Her clothes were in disarray and her hair was messy. She seemed to have mental problems. She seemed to be arguing with someone. It was like she was snatching a child's grilled sausage. She was pushed to the ground by the child's grandma. The grandma took the child and left quickly. Later, I heard from the mall employees that this was a crazy woman. Her child died. She was supported by her brother. But not long ago, her brother became a murderer and seemed to have been arrested. I asked, does this woman have no relatives anymore? Just let her be crazy outside? There are parents, but they don't care about her. Our manager also went to find her and was driven out. They said whoever loves to take care of her can do it. They are old and can't afford to take care of her anymore. This family is also a mess. Pitiful. Who says it isn't? However, pitiful people must have something hateful. The manager said that after asking neighbors, it was said that this family has a bad heart and has been punished.